Hey folks, John Cantera, the Double Broker Bounty Hunter with you. And we are now in the midst of the hurricane season. For those who have been out there a while, you know hurricanes can be a royal pain in the tail, especially if you happen to live either on the Gulf or East Coast. Well, you know what hurricanes are, and you know the kind of destructive power that these storms can generate. Well, it can be a huge problem for truckers, and it can be a huge boom for truckers and scammers alike. So it really all depends on what your risk level is and how bad you want it. So let's break down the risk side to start off with. Okay. You have a lot of people who need help after one of these storms make landfall, specifically here in the United States. Uh, a lot of communities can be easily devastated, especially on a high intensity hurricane like a category 3 or greater, which would be classified as a major hurricane. Any storms that make landfall at that strength, they're pretty damn devastating. So we find a lot of emergency supplies needing to be run out to devastated areas, whether it be on the Florida coast, coast of the Carolinas, going all the way across the Gulf Coast towards Texas. And these have some benefits. One of the benefits is that if you're in a participating load delivering emergency supplies to a devastated area, that hours of service requirements no longer apply. The broker will provide you a letter that identifies this particular load as such. And those loads tend to be fairly lucrative. So trust me, every carrier wants to get their hands on them. There's not much freight coming out of that area, but at least there's great money going in. So that's the good part. The bad part is the scammers are also watching for this. They also know that these are lucrative loads, and they are going to be watching the boards very, very closely to see what they can get their hands on so that they can scam the hell out of carriers and brokers alike in order to make money and profit off of the issue. So you have to be exceptionally careful with double brokering scams in a period of a national emergency, such as a severe storm striking the Gulf Coast. Now, this is important, and why I'm doing this now here in early July, because the first major storm is now active for the Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June through December. June through the end of November, start of December. So as the hurricane season progresses, you normally see these storms early on hitting the Carolinas and the mid-Atlantic, working their way down the coast as the season continues. And then usually late summer, early fall, we start seeing the storms coming into the Gulf of Mexico. Well, this year's a little different. Here we are, the first major storm of the season, and it's plowing its way right into the Gulf. So, we need to watch ourselves all the way around. These storms are unpredictable. They can change direction in a heartbeat, and you need to pay attention to what's going on around you. So for the rest of this show, we're going to be talking a little bit about the safety aspect of what to deal with if you are dealing with a storm. So safety tip number 1, watch for the wind. As we all know, wind can be a huge problem for trucks in this industry. The semis have, it's like a huge sail. And if you ever want to know, can wind really be a problem during a low-grade hurricane or a tropical storm? Look at this. This was as the result of an 80-mile-an-hour wind gust along an interstate in Iowa. Now, 80 miles an hour is the same strength as a Category 1 hurricane. This is just a wind gust. Imagine what sustained winds at that speed can do. So you need to do everything you can to secure your truck the best way you can. Keep it in a covered area. I have seen a lot of truckers bunch their trucks up together to kind of create a reinforced block so that when the wind does hit, the most they'll do is kind of lean up against each other a little bit, and that'd be about it. With relative small amounts of movement, there's no real damage, and everyone seems to get by in that case. And that's assuming you can't get away from the storm. But that leads us to the second tip, which is be on your guard. You need to know where these storms are going. If you can avoid them, by all means, please do. These are very, very dangerous. People lose their lives in these things, and your family wants you to come home alive when you get back off the road. So let's focus a little bit on how to track these storms. First and foremost, the best source out there is the National Hurricane Center. National Hurricane Center does updates periodically, usually every 6 hours when a storm is active, so that people can stay up to speed on the direction of the storm. This particular graphic that we have on the screen is called the Cone of Confusion. And this cone is basically a consolidation of all of the spaghetti models and what those models are saying in terms of the trajectory of the storm. And there are dozens of models out there. So what this does is this consolidates the effects of those models to give us as best a prediction of how the storm's going to strike and its intensity. So the solid white that you're seeing in the Southern Caribbean is within the next 3 days. The dotted segment beyond that is where they expect the storm to be over the course of the next 4 to 5 days. And I've got my supervisor, Jack, hanging out just to make sure that I am doing this right for everybody, as you can see. One of the good things to look at also is the spaghetti models that come from Cyclocane. I'll put up the website in a second for everyone to see, but these spaghetti models show what each individual one of those models are showing for a path for the storm. What you can't see here is that the current hurricane, Beryl, which is currently south of the Dominican Republic, is currently projected to go somewhere along the Mexico-Texas border when it makes landfall after it hits the Yucatan Peninsula. What makes this particular model very interesting is on the far right, you're going to see a yellow circle. That yellow circle is indicative of another potential storm developing within the next 72 hours or so. And that particular storm has potential tracks based on those models. And those tracks, you can see, are a little more erratic. A lot of them follow the same path as what Beryl looks like it's going to do, but there are several individual models that do forecast this hitting in the Florida Panhandle or going up the coast, the east coast of the United States. So what this storm is going to do yet, no one really knows, but it is definitely something to watch. As a weather buff myself, I tend to watch these things on a daily basis throughout the hurricane season so that I can keep my drivers well informed of what areas to stay away from. And I do my damnedest to make sure that I do not send any of my drivers into an area that is expecting a storm to come through within the next 72 hours. It's not a good place to get stuck. Otherwise, you might see a little of this. What you don't want to do is get caught up in high water, which is tip number 3. You want to avoid any kind of high water that may be out there. And the high water is a serious problem because it can cause trucks to wash away, literally. You think cars are an issue in high water in places, and you may think that thank God. Thank you, Jack. You may think that it's a no-brainer to avoid high water. But guys, a lot of truckers out there, particularly newer truckers, think, hey, man, I got 80,000 pounds on me. There ain't no way this is going to wash me away. Seriously, it only takes about a foot of standing water to cause you a problem. So pay attention, because you don't want to wind up like this guy. This is a very old photo. from Hurricane Ivan in Pensacola, Florida, along Interstate 95. This particular guy happened to be driving early in the storm as the storm was approaching the coast through the Gulf. And he didn't notice that the bridge started to wash away from the high waters. The water height that you're seeing there is about 10 feet, 10 to 12 feet above normal, above high tide normal. So this is pretty significant. In large sections of the interstate washed out from this storm, and this driver very clearly lost his life being too aggressive. So guys, be smart about this. I can tell you from experience that no load is worth your life. So if you got a storm coming in and the storm's in your path, be prepared to just shut down and let the storm pass. If you are in a place where the storm is about to hit, evacuate if you can. Again, no cargo is worth your life. And when winds start getting dangerous, you got no choice. Park, secure, and batten down the hatches until the storm passes. Good news is these storms pass quickly. They usually pass within, usually about a half a day, 12 hours time, depending on how fast it hits the coast. Typically, once it hits the coast, it shoots off like a rocket, so it will start moving fast. But once it starts moving, just stay out of the way. It's usually the safest place to be. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, Double Broker Bounty Hunters. We put out lots of information dealing with scammers in the industry. We also do some PSAs, much like this. So please pay attention whenever we've got new videos. If you subscribe, that way you'll at least get a notice when we do have a new video drop. We also have live shows coming up for our Double Broker Bounty Hunter Stop the Scam podcast every Monday, 5 p.m. Central. Available on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, as well as our channel here. With audio is usually updated on Tuesdays in Spotify. I don't know if yesterday's show was updated yet or not, but I'm going to have to look in on that. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, always hit me up at jcantera@vigilanttransport.com or check out my website, vigilanttransport.com, for any of your needs. We run a webinar on fraud in the industry. Details are on our website on the education page. Please check that out and register today, especially if you're fairly new to the industry, or even if you've been in the industry for a while and you need a refresher. This webinar covers everything that we've learned over the last 2 years about fraud in the industry and how to defend against it. With that being said, folks, whatever you do, don't let scammers take you for a ride.